Hello, welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things homeschool. My name is Jill and I'm the homeschool mom of a 9-year-old girl named Morgan who is in the 4th grade with me here at home. And today I thought I would talk about all things reading. We've got 4 categories of reading that I like to keep lists, and so I put them in 4 categories. I don't know, it'd be interesting to know how you keep track of your reading. But I cover poetry memorization, read alouds, quiet reading, or self-reading, and then group reads. So where Morgan will read one page and I'll read the other. We'll read the book together. And those usually involve a literature guide that I've made so that we can pause for after a few chapters and then fill in the questions and answer or give one's thoughts about the book. And then also I wanted to cover a book log. I got that idea from a bunch of booktubers because I love reading. I've always loved reading. I've never kept track of the books, but now it's kind of trendy to do it, and it's kind of satisfying too. I bought a little book log, and there's an entry enough for 100 books, and I thought, well, let's see if I can read 100 books in a year. So I'm at 88 right now, and my daughter is actually quickly catching up to me. I started in January, and she started in the school year where we started in July. And I think she's at 44, so she's doing pretty good. Audible counts too, so listening to a book counts, reading a book counts, and then you just keep track of was it listened to, or did you read it? How did you read it? Kindle or a paperback or a hardcover or whatever. It's just kind of fun to see the differences. So I find that helps encourage my young reader to read even more. So let's start with some of the books that we've got. We'll do what we already done and what we plan to do with our group read. These are books that Morgan and I have read together. We started out the school year with We Love Laura Ingalls. We've listened to all of her books and now we're reading them. So we started with Little House in the Woods. And I love this one. I buy 2 books of the same, like 2 duplicates. So she's got her hands on one book and I have my hands on the other. So we can read quietly but not sit next to each other necessarily. We don't have to like share the same book. But I got her the illustrated colored version and she just really loved it. I loved it too. I wished I'd gotten myself the colored version. So she can flip through and see all of those pages. Then from there, we went straight into Little House on the Prairie. And since we live in North Dakota on the prairie, we're on the eastern side of North Dakota, she just loved it to see another little girl who's learning to live on the prairie. Then we went to The Secret of the Old Clock. And this is a classic. I remember reading this when I was younger. Nancy Drew, Carolyn Keene is such a great writer. Just really adorable story. So we went with that one and shared reading. These are the ones that we finished, and now what we're going to do is the ones that we're going to. My dog is knocking on the door. He's figured out how to open it, but I locked it, so now I have to let him in. My 137-pound dog. I'll be right back. Okay, the dog is in. Now, these rest of the books are ones that I plan on reading with her, and I think we've got a lot. We should do okay this year. The next one should be Bill Pullman's The Golden Compass. I read this several years ago. I didn't know anything about it when it came out, and my friend just tossed it to me and said, here, you need to read this. And it is just a really fun book to read, and it's well written too, and there's a lot of intrigue. So we'll cover that together. And then we've got one of my favorites from when I was in the 4th grade, Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time. There's more than 3, but I just remember them as a trilogy. A Wrinkle in Time, A Wind in the Door, and A Swiftly Tilting Planet, I think. And so I bought the first one to see if Morgan liked it. But this was my entree into physics. I didn't know anything about it. And it was just mind-blowing, the sort of the concept of space travel, and also the story tied in with a girl and her brother looking for her father who's lost in the galaxy, which is kind of an interesting story. So we'll cover that one. And then we're going to move on to, of course, the classic Judy Blume, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I read this also when I was in the 4th grade. And boy, is it still hold true for kids who love to read this type of story, this kind of not quite coming of age story, and still reading about the innocence but curiosity of girls. I am thrilled that it's also finally a movie, and so I think after we read the book, we'll watch the movie together for fun. And then this one is another mystery by Martha Jocelyn, Aggie Morton, Mystery Queen, The Body Under the Piano. So it should be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to that one. And of course, I'm not sure if you know about this one. Perhaps you've heard of it, but we love it. We love this book. So I want to read it with Morgan. We've already done it, and I think I've watched the movie like a million times. But so I am a product of boarding school. And so this book is near and dear to my heart because, you know, he too did not enjoy every day he spent there. But it's full of intrigue and adventure, and boarding school was like that for me too. It was very similar except for the moving stairs. So I'm looking forward to reading this with my daughter. And then this one, do not discount this book. This is very popular with kids, and you should think about adding it. It's Erin Hunter's, her first book in the Warriors series, Into the Wild. There is intrigue, there's politics, there's survival, there's loss and circle of life. It's just very interesting, and how this cat clan solves their problems and deals with clashes with other clans. It's just wonderful. I read it with when I was a para with the fourth grade reading group, and they were done in, one girl finished it, she took it home with her every night. She finished it in that week. And so I had to get her the rest of the series. And two of the other ones just got through it very quickly. All of them loved it. So this is something my daughter's been looking forward to reading too, because she knows that I read it to the fourth grade little group last year. Those are all of our shared reading and self-reading, I think. Did I cover? Yeah, I think I did. And Morgan has some books that she has liked to read on her own, and I let her pick them. She can choose whatever she wants, but as far as she knows, she's picking anything she wants. But I kind of place books in front of her or around the house or in her room in her bookshelf that I think she would like. But then I like to keep the aperture open because I don't want to typecast her or stick her into a genre that she likes now but won't like in a month. But I do kind of nudge in certain directions to help her select books, and then she can go from there. And then if she says she's interested in something else, I go find it. So she started with Roald Dahl's BFG. She really liked The Witches, and so she asked me to get all the rest that he has written. So I bought the collection on paperback. And she started reading this, and she DNF'd it, but she was really into it for a while. In fact, she DNF'd it really late. She made it to page 125 in a 198-page book. So she was pretty close, but she just dropped it. She put it down one day and didn't pick it up. I DNF books all the time. If you're not huge into books, DNFing is did not finish. I do it all the time, and she sees me do that, and I'm okay with her doing that because if she's not into it, I want her to be into reading. I don't want her to have to be stuck in a book because I want her to finish the book. I just want her to read. So if she drops a book, she may pick it up later. I picked up Frankenstein. I read the first couple of chapters were fantastic. Then there's a massive lull. So I dropped it, and several months later I picked it up and just tore right through it after that. So it just depends on how you're feeling. And if my kid is not feeling it, then I'm not going to force the reading at all because there's so many more books out there that she can read. So then she went on to Pippi Longstocking, a timeless classic, another one, Astrid Lindgren. Pippi Longstocking is just a cute, funny, ha-ha read. There's not much into it that you have to analyze. Or should. It's just a nice read for a kid. And so she did that. I think she read that in a week and really enjoyed it. We don't do, for self-reading, I don't ask her to do a literature guide. I just do literature guides, maybe 1 or 2 a month. Yeah, maybe 2 a month. But I don't make her do a literature guide for every book because I want to keep it fast-paced. So sometimes if we're binging a book and she's really into it, I'm not going to have her, I know that she understands it because she's that into it and we're talking about it all the time. So that's her literature guide. It's given to me verbally rather than written. And so if we're really into something, I'm not going to stop and go, now let's pause and do the 3 chapters that we're behind on. It just slows down the tempo, and I'm not into that. So then her next one that she picked up, that she chose off of out of school during the Scholastic sale, because we're still very close to our public school. We like them very much. And so when they had their Scholastic book sale, Morgan picked up Exit 13 by James Preller, The Whispering Pines. And what I really like about this book, not only the fact that it's mystery and kind of there's some creepiness to it, is that the author chose to marry, graphic novels are very in now, it's the thing, and the author chose to marry up a graphic novel portion. Every few chapters you'll see more than just a picture, but it's four pages of graphic novel, so the child can pause and look and then continue on reading with the chapters. So this was a real hit. We'll probably get the second in this series. And what she's picked up now is Bliss. This actually, Catherine Littlewood, Bliss was a book that came suggested by the homeschool mother whose daughter's name is Reka, and I think the homeschool mom is intentional homeschooler. And so Reka, her daughter, was reading this, and because we were watching that on YouTube, Morgan wanted to pick this up, so I bought it pre-owned. I love pre-owned books. Better World Books is awesome. Thrift Books, anything. The used bookstore, it's just so fun to go and look and grab a few books. And so she picked this one up used, and it's really sweet. If you watched Just Add Magic, it's a little kids show. It's sort of similar with that one is about girls who have a magic cookbook and get into all sorts of trouble. This one is sort of similar in that it's a magical bakery, and the family's name is Bliss. So she's really liking that. She's 80 pages into it this week. Now, let's get to read alouds. This is my favorite stuff. This book was harder to find unabridged than I thought. Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. I ordered and I purchased 2 other Black Beauties thinking that they were unabridged. They were unabridged, but they were highly edited and modernized for current language. And that just wasn't the point of me wanting to read the book to my daughter. So I finally found Puffin Classics does really well in that. I found a couple of Puffin Classics that I was able to purchase that are absolutely unabridged original writing. Which is what I want. When you read literature, you kind of want to read the original. And so this is what we chose, and she loved it. It was just a great book. Kind of sad, too, in some places. Then we went right into J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. This book is packed. It's a 1972 paperback copy of The Hobbit, and it's only 286 pages, full story. It's crammed full of information. If you miss one page, you're going to miss a part of the story. It's just astounding. If you've watched the movies, there's 3 movies to this book, The Hobbit. Each is 2 hours long, and the first movie only covers the first 7 chapters of this book. So it really gives you an idea of the depth of language that he can use in very short order to get his idea across. And we just binged it. We were done like that so quickly. I couldn't find, for all that it is considered literature and how popular it is, I could not find a good literature guide online. And I wanted to purchase one, so I ended up just having to make my own, which is fine since I'm reading. As I were reading the book, that evening I would write the literature guide and then give her the chapters in the morning to say, how did you think about yesterday, what about this, and Bilbo Baggins and all that. So I was able to piece something together there. I'm finding that I'm having to write a lot of my own literature guides because we are reading books that are not necessarily what is popular or what everybody else is doing. And so the trend is just not there to provide a literature guide for the books that we want to read. But that's not going to stop us, because next, Morgan specifically asked for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yes, she did. I've already read it. I loved it. I wasn't sure. I knew she'd like the story, but I wasn't sure if it was a bit too much for her or too heavy. So I agreed, and I bought this book, thinking I'd just read the first couple of chapters, and then maybe she'd want me to move on to something else. Alas, no. We did nothing but read and talk about this book for a week and a half. And it was wonderful. She loved it. I loved it. We just enjoyed it. It was so much fun. And I got the Libby, the Audible version, or the audio version through Libby for free, so that when we ate breakfast, because I can't read to her while I eat breakfast, while we ate breakfast together, we listened to the reader, and the reader's amazing. The voice he uses for all of the characters is just wonderful. So we really got into that one. Another book, we've read this before. We listened to it before over last Christmas, and we wanted to read it this year. Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. Another book that's difficult to find. If you're not paying attention, you'll get an abridged version, and definitely look for the unabridged version. It should be illegal to edit this book. It's an adorable story about girls, about little women, as they grow up, how they get along. It's just sweet, just adorable story about 4 little March girls, the Miss March. So I call my daughter Miss March now because she was born in March, and we just love this story. We're currently in this one. We're about 30% in, so this is the one we're into right now. And then I don't have too many more read-alouds because we've been going through so many of them so quickly that I just have 3 more, so I need to get more. So if any of you have any ideas, any kind of read-alouds that you're doing with your kids, any classics, any kind of literature that you're doing, leave a message down below, leave a comment and let me know, because if Morgan's interested in it, we'll pick it up and read it. But the next one that we have on our list is Jack London's The Call of the Wild, and I'm going to need tissues for this. For the same reason that I needed tissues for Little House on the Prairie, if we all know about poor Jack in the river. Even though I've read it 3 times and I know how it ends, I still cry. So this is going to be the same with The Call of the Wild. It's a bit sad, but it's very well written and really interesting to read. It's just a loving book. So we'll go through that one. And then since we're going to stay in the idea of mystery and intrigue, we really enjoy that. Morgan loves Agatha Christie, and we love the BBC murders because they're kind of G-rated, where there's no gore or blood. There's a murder, and then the whole story on the show is about how they solved the murder. And so Agatha Christie is the queen of that. She is the originator of it. And so I got her first book that she ever wrote, The 450 from Paddington, and it comes with there's a black and white movie to this as well. And so Morgan doesn't like black and white movies, but there's some classics there that are worth watching. And so I'm hoping that if we read this book, then I can sucker her into watching the black and white movie, the original movie, with popcorn and candy on a junk food Friday night. And then finally, last but not least, we love Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and I bought his story, A Study in Scarlet. We're enamored with Sherlock Holmes and his smarts and his quirkiness. So this is his first story of Sherlock Holmes. And the cover of this is a replica of the cover of the journal that it was first printed in. So I thought that was kind of interesting and made sure to get this book. So that'll be our read aloud. Now for poetry memorization, something that I used to do and kind of have gotten into. Morgan is okay with poetry memorization. I still remember my first poem, Victor Hugo, Demain des L'aubes. I had to memorize it for my French class when I was a young kid. And I still have it memorized and recite it in my head when I'm bored, or when I was in really boring board meetings, I would doodle the poem on paper, and nobody knew what I was doing. They thought that I was taking notes on what they were saying. So we're doing poetry memorization, and we found, if it wasn't for Brittany Olga and her homeschool YouTube channel, we wouldn't have found IEW as quickly as we did. And then through there, I found the poetry memorization book from IEW. It's fantastic. It'll stay with you for life. It goes all the way into famous speeches. They've got Churchill, "We shall fight on the beaches." I mean, every time I hear that on the like a recording from his original radio speech, I get chills. And so the idea that when Morgan is in high school, she can take this and memorize it and then keep it with her forever. For now, there's 5 kind of not chapters, but there's 5 levels. There's 5 levels here, and we're in the first level. And we have started, let's see, there's Ooey Gooey, Celery, The Little Man Who Wasn't There, The Vulture, and we're doing After the Party right now. But we intersperse it with poems that she's really interested in, that she's chosen. 'Cause if she's chosen to do poetry, who am I to tell her no? So she's found, let's see, where is it? We love Shel Silverstein's Treehouse. And so we both memorized that one for fun. And then we picked up Afternoon on the Hill by Edna St. Vincent Millay, a poem called Stick Insect by Eileen Spinelli that we found in a Scholastic magazine, I think, and But Space by Robert Frost that Morgan wanted to memorize during her space science unit. And so I think we've covered everything, but I still need to pick up some more books for our read alouds. And again, if you have any ideas, let me know. We shall certainly check them out. But I hope this is helpful to you. I know we're a little different than some homeschoolers. We all are, though, aren't we? We all do different things, and this is the way I am. This is who I am. This is how we are. And so I hope that these books have helped you or given you an idea of, oh no, we don't want to read that, or we definitely want to read that. Something that you'll consider, especially if you consider reading to your child at several grade levels above them. They don't have to understand it all. They don't. But if they're still sitting there listening, they're getting something out of the book. So if you can stand reading it and they're still there, then go ahead and give it a try, even if it seems kind of complicated. I would also encourage, if you're daunted by a book, then start with the Audible and let somebody else do the work for you. You'll both get into it and both do get a lot of learning in. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, give me a thumbs up or consider subscribing and watching how my journey homeschooling as a first-time homeschool mom to a 4th grader is going. Thank you. See ya. Look at that. Isn't that just, I love how the book opens. And as you all know, Audible is the gateway drug to actually reading a book. And I was that sad kid who couldn't read very well, and we were color-coded, and I had the red dot. So I was the red dot reader, and all of my friends were the gold and silver dot readers. It was just horrible. But it's a short book, and it's so well written, and it's just timeless. You're going to let me finish? You're going to let me finish?